Does manual treasury management and operations have your crypto business stuck in the slow lane? Scale up and speed ahead with Fireblocks, the #1 platform for crypto operations and trading pros that makes custody, settlement, and rebalancing quick and easy. Visit fireblocks.com to learn more. This episode is brought to you by Coinbase Prime, an integrated solution that provides institutional investors with an advanced trading platform, secure custody, and prime services to manage all of their crypto assets in one place. Futuristic companies like Tesla and MicroStrategy have used Coinbase's comprehensive investing platform to execute some of the largest trades in the industry. Learn more by visiting coinbase.com/prime to get started today. I'd also like to give a shout out to Cross River. Whether you're a crypto exchange, NFT marketplace, or wallet, Cross River's integrated API-based platform provides the payment solutions you need to grow. A CryptoFin Industry Award winner and an early partner for companies like Coinbase, Cross River's tech stack supports crypto partners and enables real-time money movement for consumers. Welcome to a new world of crypto-friendly banking at crossriver.com/crypto. All opinions expressed by hosts and podcast guests are solely their own opinions and not necessarily those of the blocks. Podcast guests may have taken positions in the assets or other matters discussed in this podcast. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon as a basis for investment decisions. For full terms, visit theblockcrypto.com/terms-service. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Scoop. I'm your host, Frank Chaparro, editor-at-large at The Block, and we are here at NFT NYC. So great to be here in person with all the lovely audio equipment donned in front of me. And on the other side of the mic, sitting right next to me, is our guest, Ivan Soto-Wright, co-founder and CEO of MoonPay. Ivan, thanks so much for joining us. How are you doing?
It's NFT NYC. What a big week.
It's a big week, to use the words of Barry Silbert. Ivan and I were just hearkening back to our memories of being failed lifeguards. We both failed different aspects of the lifeguard test. Not surprisingly, I failed the physical aspect, and you, the multiple choice, got you.
Man, there are tricky questions in there. Not so easy to be a lifeguard, so had to find an alternative career path.
But you made it out okay. I mean, MoonPay, for folks who don't know, an NFT payments company founded in the depths of the bear market in 2018, is now a $3.4 billion company. So you're doing all right despite never living your dream of running down the beach.
We still have tons of work to do. It's early.
So there's a lot of stuff happening in the space and a lot of stuff happening within MoonPay. So there's a lot to get into. How do you describe it to your normal friends who are not in the space? When they ask you what you do,
right?
Do you say, I hang out with celebrities and wear weird clothing with apes on them? What is the...
Yeah, no, I think, make it really simple. I try to make Web3 simple for people to understand. I think the most important thing to take away from the idea of Web3 is the fact that you can control and own your identity, your data, your property, and your currency. And so when we started MoonPay, we really focused on that currency aspect. If you think about it, a lot of our systems are really archaic. A lot of the payment systems that were built were before the internet. And to me, I think we're going to see a very similar evolution in which we saw in telecoms, where essentially, remember, it was really expensive to place a long-distance phone call. Mm-hmm. And then you had the advent of voice over IP. You had incredible applications get built from Skype. Skype wasn't great originally, and then eventually we got to a Zoom, which we use today, but we opted into a system that was more efficient. And I think the same thing is going to happen for the movement of value, and I call it value over IP is the blockchain. And we don't know what blockchain everyone's going to ultimately use. It can be Bitcoin's blockchain, it's going to be Ethereum, it's going to be Solana. I think the market ultimately determines that. But we wanted to make it simple for people to take the first step into this new world. And really where it started was, I remember 2017, 2018, around that period of time, there were a bunch of wallets. And it was early days of wallets. I call wallets kind of the foundational building block for movement of value over blockchains. Like everyone's going to have a wallet, and that wallet essentially is going to be like your next generation bank account. But if you think about it, if you wanted to top up that wallet, it was quite painful. You had to go to an exchange, you had to go buy cryptocurrency, then you had to move it into your wallet, which is a lot of steps. And so we said, what if you could just have a top up button directly inside the wallet? We were very lucky. First we started building a wallet, but someone decided to share the version of our wallet with Roger Ver at Bitcoin.com. He sends me an email and said, hey, Ivan, I saw this wallet that you built. Maybe there's a way you can work with us at Bitcoin.com. And that's where we saw that there was a big opportunity to make it easy for Bitcoin.com's customers to top up directly with their debit and credit card. And debit and credit cards, it's a really good place to start because Visa and MasterCard have billions of people of distribution on the network. So we started there and we created a simple widget that lives inside the Bitcoin.com wallet. Now we're in hundreds of wallets. I think 7 of the top 10 most popular wallets on mobile now use MoonPay's checkout widget to top up cryptocurrency frictionlessly. So in a nutshell, we're making it easy for people to enter for the first time. We're trying to get to a place where we can pass the mom test, where everyone can come in and start playing around with crypto. So now we actually announced today, it was a really big deal for us. So we had just last year announced our NFT checkout solution. So we said, it still felt a little bit complicated. Like, why do I need to buy cryptocurrency to go buy an NFT? Like, that's another step. You're adding friction to the process. So we then unveiled NFT checkout last year. We finally shipped it. Our friends at OpenSea have finally integrated this new solution where you can use your debit and credit card just like an e-commerce experience on OpenSea and check out and buy your NFT. But today was a big deal because we announced that we're no longer just a payments infrastructure company. We're a Web3 infrastructure company, and we've got this really exciting new product, Hypermint, that I can share more about later today.
Yeah, and that kind of will help you go from sitting behind the different crypto players as an infrastructure provider to a whole wide range of different corporations, media entities, as they kind of embark on their own NFT journey.
Yeah, it's crazy. I remember we were just talking about the possibility of ideas just a year ago, and now it feels like every other week, despite, we're in a bear market at the moment, every major company is thinking about how to integrate a Web3 strategy. And if you think through that, it's actually really complicated. There's so many different things to think about. What blockchain should you use? How are you going to get people to buy these things? How do you think about custody? How do you think about your private key management? Oh, did you audit your smart contract? There's a lot of complexity there. And so we saw an opportunity. We were kind of at the end of the funnel, right? So we were working with a lot of the marketplaces in the NFT space where, they'd already built the platform, but they needed the payments infrastructure. Whereas we saw an opportunity where it didn't make sense to me that a major brand would want to launch their NFTs on a secondary marketplace. They already have the customer relationship. They should control that. And that's the kind of tool set that we've built with Hypermint.
So will this help, like, let's say a Disney create their own marketplace where their relationships, their client relationships can purchase NFTs related to their various brands?
100%. So they can take their intellectual property and they can take any idea. That idea, the atomic unit of that idea is metadata. And they can take that metadata and program that into an NFT. So we give them a full suite management platform because I think over time there's going to be hundreds of millions of NFTs. Like, we're in the very early phase. And I think it's like a new file format. It's like the MP3 is the way I think about the NFT. And we're at the very early phases of pioneering around the different use cases. Most of it has really been around just the collectible aspect, but I think we're going to see a lot more real-world utility. You can imagine for Disney, you could have an NFT related to, maybe it's a Daffy Duck, and you got a Daffy Duck NFT, and Disney can now form a relationship. They know you're a Daffy Duck fan, then they can actually send you, hey, here's special merchandise. We're going to drop you a Phygital. Phygital is the term. I don't know if you've heard this before, or digital twinning. But the idea is you can take something that exists physically and create a digital pair of that as an NFT, and then you can hold on to that and redeem it for the physical. So they could send you a digital T-shirt that you could show off to your friends, and then when you're ready, you could show up to the Disney theme park and redeem that for the physical T-shirt because they know you're a Daffy Duck fan. So it just changes, and it gives an opportunity for any brand to form a new type of engagement with their end audience or customer.
To play devil's advocate, or to be a cynic to a degree,
sure.
Sometimes I think about this future where every ticket, let's say, is an NFT or a collectible, and it sits in your wallet, and it can unlock new experiences down the road.
Right.
Or you can get airdrop things given based on whether or not you have that original NFT,
right,
et cetera. There are a lot of interesting possibilities that make this exciting. I was thinking of renting out my Airbnb and giving an NFT to whoever stays.
Whoever stayed in the Frank Shack.
Exactly. And, it's amusing and interesting, but then I think about, what does this future look like? Do I just go in my wallet and I have like thousands and thousands of NFTs? Like, how do you go through that? It's almost like opening up my drawer, the junk mail drawer. Too many stubs in the drawer, all that mail that you hate getting. How do you parse through what's relevant?
I think that's going to be the role of the wallet. Right now, I have an issue where my public wallet address, it's public. So I get all sorts of interesting NFTs showing up in my wallet. Sometimes I'm not really sure what's showing up in my wallet from day to day. But I think the filtering and the curation is going to get better, and you're going to be able to opt in. Ultimately, we're making the shift. We're trying to give power back to you, right, to control the relationships that you have with your identity, your data, your property, your currency. And so I do think you're going to be able to toggle in functionality. You're going to be able to make it more relevant. You're not going to just have it's just more like an email inbox, right? You're going to have tons of junk mail, but they're going to be junk mail filters.
That's a really interesting analogy. That makes a lot of sense. But email could use some work. Gmail could use some work from a filtering perspective, but they're getting better. I love the 3-day reminder thing that they've started doing.
I'm not sure what is that.
Well, basically, if you haven't responded to someone,
it just tells you, hey,
it just tells you, hey, this message. So interesting. So think about it like that. There'll be a future in which wallets are more filterable, more easy to use. This is less about the utility of NFTs and more about the efficacy or the nature of the UX, UI. Do you ever think about, going into that category of the market, like building your own wallet or your own marketplace? Or
So we've always focused on the infrastructure. One of the most challenging things when you start a company from scratch is how are you going to get distribution? I found that really challenging with the first company that I built. I built an algorithm-driven savings product, which I thought was super cool in practice. It connected to your bank account, would scrape your bank account history, and then tell you how much money you could move into a savings account. Felt super cool. It was a direct-to-consumer proposition, but then it was very hard to find customers. And so ultimately, we got lucky. We managed to sell the business to a company called Plum. They took it on, and they've done a great job in the United Kingdom and Europe. But that lesson stuck with me around distribution. And so the idea that we could solve this pain point that was similar across many different wallets was super appealing around the first product set of MoonPay with the MoonPay widget. But I think we want to really make sure. I think that an entire ecosystem of wallets is going to flourish. I don't think it's necessarily going to just be one wallet. I think they're going to have multiple wallets for multiple purposes and use cases. But when we think about the customer journey, we're obsessed with conversion. Conversion is really the North Star to think through this whole thing. It's like, okay, we're going to onboard people into this new world that we're creating. We're not sure what are all the amazing applications that people are going to use. We know there's something here, right? That value is going to be moving over blockchains, but how are people going to be interacting with that value? What are the applications that people are going to be using? It's like trying to predict with early internet that we're going to go from Facebook to Snapchat to TikTok. I don't think anyone would have predicted dancing videos on TikTok. And I think same here with blockchain and digital assets and the different relationships we're going to have with these different marketplaces. I don't think anyone would have predicted a year ago where OpenSea got to and NFTs got to just over the last year. So I think we're going to see a ton of innovation around that. But when it goes back to my point around conversion, it's all about how do we improve that user experience. And one of the things that we have looked at and we're excited to roll out very soon is the functionality if you do not have a wallet, right? Because there's a lot of people, a lot of these Web3 sites, you have to basically connect your wallet before you can interact with anything on the platform. And so the idea that you can start the process of go and buy your NFT, that's what you came to do, and then be able to claim it into your wallet later, I think will solve conversion to a very large degree. And so we've started to do some tests. We'll be rolling out a really cool feature that will enable you to set up a wallet and then be able to claim it into any of your existing wallets afterwards.
Got it. So what is the function you're talking about where you don't need a wallet to buy an NFT? So where does it sit?
So it's going to sit with you. I think the ethos of MoonPay from day one has always been non-custodial. We really believe that you should hold on to your private keys. You should be in possession of your identity, property, currency. And so the solution that we're rolling out is you will be able to purchase your NFT, and then there will be a screen. Do I have a wallet or do not have a wallet? If you do have a wallet, you can connect. If you don't have a wallet, we'll set one up for you. It'll be backed up. The private key will backed up to your Google or your iCloud, and then you'll have a wallet with us, which you can then claim into any of your other wallets.
I see what you mean. I thought it would be more of kind of like a pseudo wallet where maybe, I don't even know how this would function, but you kind of control it, and then they see it, but it's not really theirs.
No, we think it's important that it's really theirs.
Yeah.
I think that's really, really key. Everything that we've done has really been thinking about how do we make that trade-off, because it's important to do that while also nailing the customer experience.
So it's a weird time in the market. We both bootstrapped our own respective firms in the depths of 2018 when things were a bit
dark times.
Bit dark, similar to now, although it's weird, right? Because price is bad, sentiment is really bad. I mean, when you have thousands of people laid off, it's unfortunate, it's sad. But at the same time, this conference is packed. Maybe they bought their tickets before everything went sideways. But how are you feeling about the market right now, generally?
I mean, bear markets really don't bother me at all, just because, the story of MoonPay, we had built in the middle of a bear market. I remember I was trying to raise my seed round. So we did actually try to fundraise for MoonPay early on, even though that we were bootstrapped. And I was rejected from pretty much every major VC. I remember getting to the investment committee stage. That's like the final stage, right? To get the sign off, to get the check in the door. And someone had told me that one of the VCs just didn't really like crypto. So I had to basically talk to this VC that didn't like crypto. And I tried to convince him that crypto was going to be a thing, but he at that point had dismissed it, thought it was dead. That's kind of the sentiment I'm starting to hear around NFTs, but I think that is a little bit premature. And the reason why is I think we're still going to elevate the content of NFTs. Like, it's still really, really early if you think about it. Like, it's really been Web3 native IP brands that have been dominating the charts when you look at most of the volume, most of the activity. It's concentrated in a very few set of brands.
Sure.
I think, you have all these legacy players. Like, NFTs, to me, it's really around intellectual property. So that's why when I think about that, I'm like, okay, who are the most valuable holders of intellectual property? It's a lot of the brands, it's a lot of the creators that we already know. And so they have not yet come into Web3. And that's what I think is going to be really interesting. If we can arm them with a tool set, you're going to bring the most creative minds to really start thinking through how can we create really interesting relationships with end audiences, fans, your users. And so that's why I think, we have to kind of disconnect from the price movements. It's really easy to get caught up in, price movements of the actual assets. I've always been really thinking about the long term because, you look at Bitcoin still, right? One of the best performing asset classes in history. NFTs were still at the very beginning of this asset class. And this asset class is quite complex, right? Because you have some that are being valued as kind of collectibles, but some might just be like a utility, right?
Some might have no value.
Exactly. Some should have zero value. If I draw a scribble right now on a piece of paper on this desk in front of us and turn it into an NFT, is that valuable? You could argue I would say it's not. Maybe someone thinks it's valuable, but the point is it's a new file format.
I'm a bidder at 5.
Yeah.
Well, as you sort of move into this new direction as a more wide-ranging provider of infrastructure that's going to disconnect you from the floor prices of these various NFTs or PFPs specifically, and I think that's part of the issue, right? It's a misunderstanding of terms. When you talk to the average person or even the average crypto person, NFT automatically in their mind renders a picture of a Bored Ape. But that's likely, at least if you're correct, if your thesis is correct, will make up 5%.
Yeah.
Or 1%.
It won't be the percentage that we have today, especially, as I said, once we start to unlock a lot of the brands that we already love, a lot of the creators that we already love, they start to participate in this. And so, I think it's normal to have a market dominant player in the very early phases of anything, right? Same what we saw with Bitcoin and Bitcoin's dominance over a period of time. I think that's what we were seeing in the NFT space, but it's still way too early.
It's interesting. We had Kyle Samani at Multicoin on the show quite a number of months ago, but he brought up the interesting point or the interesting juxtaposition between the early NFT market now and the early form of internet media in the 90s. It was really just taking what existed in the analog world and kind of putting it on the internet.
Precisely.
So if you look at the New York Times, when they rolled out their website, it was just the cover of the New York Times, and you couldn't really click on anything. It was just a static page. And now, I mean, they're at the forefront of infographics and some of the most interesting dynamic political maps or charts, especially during COVID, right? No one could have ever imagined that you'd be able to in 1990, go on NewYorkTimes.com, click on a picture of the United States, and see on a county-by-county basis the level of infections for a fast-growing disease. That just wouldn't have entered the paradigm of people's minds. And I think NFTs are similar.
Right.
We're kind of just recreating what exists in the analog world, cool art, I guess, or images, and making them JPEG images. But that's just the first phase.
That's just first phase. I mean, I think the other one, they can be much more than just digital content. I mean, the one term that I use a lot is phygital or digital twinning. And I think, everything in the real world can have a digital pair, right? So you can imagine, let's say Gucci has a special line of shoes that they want to sell on their website. And maybe the shoes haven't actually been released yet, but they could release them digitally, and they could actually start to engage with the audience and see whether there's actually demand for that asset before it actually is created. And then that's almost like an option contract. You can then redeem that digital NFT for a physical in store. And, it's also interesting because there's a lot of inefficiency in the fashion world. You have an issue around counterfeiting. At least now they're on chain. You have provenance. But the really big opportunity is around the secondary markets. There's so many secondary markets for assets where the primary issuer does not participate whatsoever. And so the incentive of essentially having a royalty baked into a smart contract for that asset, if someone starts to trade those shoes, at least Gucci is being rewarded for the issuer. And that can be the same with creators. And so I think there's just a big opportunity to create a lot more efficiency by taking a lot of assets that exist physically and having them digitally. And I almost like the other analogy I use is almost like you play like Legend of Zelda, and it's no way that the main character Link could have all of these weapons and things on him, but he calls them when he's ready. And I could imagine that you'll have an entire wardrobe that's digital, that when you're ready, you can call on those assets physically, which I think is super interesting as well. So just redefining the way that we can think about ownership. Why do we need to own everything physically? We could own a bunch of things just digitally.
Especially if the metaverse is going to be an actual thing.
It already is a thing. So the way I describe the metaverse, it's like, I never met you before.
That's true.
Right, in person. This is the first time I'm meeting you in real life, IRL.
That you know of.
That I know of. Maybe
I've been stalking you for months ahead of this interview.
So first time we meet formally in person, but I could have formed an impression on you by just Googling you online.
Sure.
You've kind of existed in this metaverse online, right? I can look at your Twitter, I can look at your Instagram, I can look at all of these social handles that you have, and I can form an impression of you. That's your digital identity. And now we have tools to express our digital identity in a unique way. And I think that's what's also interesting. I think one of the really interesting use cases Vitalik highlighted recently is around soul-bound tokens. I think that's going to be really big within NFTs. Like the idea that there's a permanent NFT that you cannot transfer, because I think it can solve a lot of issues around fraud, right? And that's one of the biggest things that we encounter at MoonPay is, we have to think about, do we let this customer come through our onboarding funnel? Are they trying to commit fraud? And we try to use as much information as possible to make a good decision. So, we collect their passport, their identity, their data information, really to make an informed decision. And so, the idea that you can have a soul-bound token from your university, you can start to create all these different proof points of your records to actually know that this thing is actually real, and the fact that it's not transferable. I think we're going to see a lot of use of this that will transform the way that we keep our records.
Having trouble keeping pace with the crypto boom? When your business is scaling up and your portfolio is growing, you don't want to waste precious time on manual treasury management or settling and rebalancing. Fireblocks can handle that for you with smart, scalable solutions for your crypto business, along with industry-leading security and expertise. They'll take care of the back end so you can focus on the big picture. Visit fireblocks.com to learn more. This episode is brought to you by Coinbase Prime, an integrated solution that provides institutional investors with an advanced trading platform, secure custody, and prime services to manage all their crypto assets in one place. Coinbase Prime fully integrates crypto trading and custody on a single platform and gives clients the best all-in pricing in their network using their proprietary smart order router and algorithmic execution. Futuristic companies like Tesla and MicroStrategy have already used Coinbase's comprehensive investing platform to execute some of the largest trades in the industry. Build a unified investment portfolio with one of the most trusted names in crypto. Learn more by visiting coinbase.com/prime to get started today. This episode is brought to you by Cross River. Building the next big thing in crypto? Then it's time to get your fiat on and off ramp solution from Cross River. Whether you're a crypto exchange, NFT marketplace, or wallet, Cross River's integrated API-based platform provides the payment solutions you need to grow. Cross River is powering the future of financial services. A CryptoFin Industry Award winner and an early partner for companies like Coinbase, Cross River's tech stack supports crypto partners and enables real-time money movement for consumers. Welcome to a new world of crypto-friendly banking. Request your fiat on and off-ramp solution now at crossriver.com/crypto. So the NFT market has, up until maybe a few weeks ago, entered the media zeitgeist. I mean, I've never seen an aspect of crypto become a darling in the way that the PFPs did, and you guys have played a role in that spread of that virus. To context set, right, we've confirmed that you guys have sent NFTs from MoonPay or via MoonPay to Gwyneth Paltrow, Jimmy Fallon, Diplo, Little Baby, I think is how you say that
little,
one.
Little.
It's
the
Lil,
Lil.
Lil Baby. Anyway, why focus on infiltrating pop culture like this?
So I think there's a couple things to set the stage here. One, what do I care about? I want to onboard as many people into Web3. So I told you when we started, we focused on the distribution points of what made sense. And so the distribution points of what made sense when we started our widget product was Visa and MasterCard. Billions of people already on those networks. And so when you think about the opportunity for NFTs, and I described earlier, I think the real crux of NFTs, where a lot of them will derive value, is intellectual property, right? And so there's a finite supply of highly valuable intellectual property out there, and there's the big opportunity to put that and make it relevant for Web3. And so part of my idea was, first, how do we get as many people knowing about the opportunity to onboard into Web3? And so by working with some of the folks that have some of the most eyeballs on them across the entertainment, the music, the fashion industry, that was a way to have a lot of leverage around this experience of being able to onboard, to set up your wallet. It was a huge opportunity to educate, just to get the basics set up. Like, how do we get you set up with a wallet? How do you know that you should hold on to your private key? How do we teach them these very important lessons? Because if you teach those people, they'll teach their entire following, right, over time. That was the initial premise, was how do we teach as many of these people about it? But then from there, and this is where Hypermint really comes in, is they now have an opportunity to take their intellectual property and turn that into NFTs that are going to be relevant for their audiences. So for us, it was an opportunity to build an early relationship, to educate around how do we get them set up with the basics of Web3. And then from there, how do we help them form authentic relationships with the community and then start to think about the assets they can issue in the future.
One moment of time that is kind of burnt into my memory, so to speak, was Fallon and Paris showing each other their NFTs, their Bored Apes. How does something like that happen? How do you convince them that something seemingly irreverent or ridiculous is something they need to put their names by or next to?
So that was organic. That was definitely not planned between Fallon and Paris. I had independent conversations with both of them. For them, they heard about NFTs and they were excited about it. I think Apes was interesting, specifically the Bored Ape project, because it was one of the first projects where you truly own the intellectual property. That wasn't the case with a lot of the other NFT projects at the time, but since that, we've seen a lot of NFT projects adopt a similar model where you do own your intellectual property, which I think was really important because you have no idea how these creators could commercialize that. Like if they put that on a t-shirt, they should own the royalty rights to that, and that wasn't necessarily the case with all the content. But I think it became a discussion of pop culture. Everyone wanted to talk about this idea that you could flex your digital identity in the form of a profile picture. It was kind of exciting. And I think a lot of them wanted to be part of it, and it just became a natural part of the conversation.
You know, obviously, I buy into this a lot. Even when I change my Twitter profile to a Bored Ape, I mean, it's almost like walking into a, nice oyster bar in Sarasota with a Rolex. Like, people look at you a little bit differently. I mean, so I get the flexing makes sense because we flex in the real world, we flex in the digital world.
It's an expression of your digital identity, right? And as I said, how do I form my impression of you? I inform my impression of you by going on Google and looking at all different social channels. This is one additional layer that you can have, is actually showcasing your digital property.
But again, to play devil's advocate, I think some people look at that, especially in the mainstream or the mainstream media, and think, especially given just all of the scams and the long tail, that it's just these celebrities trying to, self-promote themselves, or it's just an ickiness to some people where it's like, what's going on really? Like,
right.
Is this just trying to,
the way I look at it, though,
dump their bags on me?
Yeah, well, the way I look at it is, if we're going to take this technology mainstream, it needs to be used by everyone. And that means absolutely everyone. So again, it just comes down to what are the highest leverage distribution points that you're going to have to educate people. And that's why we formed the MoonPay Concierge. It was really trying to focus on how do we create awareness around Web3.
Mm-hmm. And is it mostly now them coming to you, or do you come to them? Like, how does Concierge work?
So most of it is actually inbound at this point. So a lot of people have heard, hey, like if you want to get set up with your wallet, you can work with our team. We'll help you set up with your wallet. We can help you think through custody, and we can help you buy any of these digital assets or NFTs, right? And so right now, it's actually, even if you want to use some of the institutional platforms, if you're a high net worth individual, there's not really a lot of services that cater for you in a way where you're still in control of the experience. Like, yes, you can buy like an ETF or, soon to be hopefully an ETF in the market, or you can, sign up to any of these services like Grayscale, and you can get exposure to the asset. But for you to actually own that, it's still quite difficult. And actually, there was no place you could go to actually just buy NFTs, and especially high value NFTs. You want an experience that's going to be more like a private bank. Like, one, a lot of the pricing, it was very expensive, right? If you wanted to buy a high value NFT, you'd want to pay with a bank transfer. And so we try to make that process as smooth as possible, where you get the invoice, you can pay by bank.
Got it. There seems to be like a bit of a dichotomy here between the amount of effort and energy you put into helping these celebrities get set up with their own PFP NFTs and this broader company mission of trying to be a wide-ranging infrastructure payments provider. How does setting up celebrities with PFPs translate into being a stronger payments service firm?
Of course. Yeah. So again, I think the important thing is we're trying to onboard as many people into Web3 as possible. And we're talking billions, right? And so then you think, okay, again, if you're thinking through the marketing channels of how to get people aware of a service like this existing, where are you going to get the most potential eyeballs of people actually being able to use your service? So that was the rationale, right? It was just a distribution point. But our core business has not changed. We're super focused internally. We have a culture around Kaizen, which is continuous improvement. Literally means change for better in Japanese. We make these 1% incremental improvements to the product experience every single day. We're obsessed, as I mentioned, around conversion. And so, that's our core business. We're going to continue to focus on how do we get the best converting experience if you want to go from fiat to crypto, vice versa. If you want to go fiat into NFTs, vice versa. Or you want to think about issuance now around your NFTs. And so we're going to continue to focus on the infrastructure. But again, I think for us is, how do we create awareness? How do we get this into a place where it's cool within the culture to interact with crypto? If you remember, like a year or two ago, it was not. And that's what's so interesting is now it's in the front of everyone's mind. Do you have crypto? Do you have a wallet? Oh, and they start to play with it. And then you unlock those creative minds to actually start to think about the content. And the content's changing. That's what's so exciting. Is like we're going beyond profile pictures. Like that's just the beginning, right? There's going to be so many digital assets that are going to be created over the next decade. And so we need to get the best minds working on it, the best brands, the best creators.
Does it open the door to potential business deals? Like, let's say I'm a celebrity in my own right, I'd say, you give me a Bored Ape and maybe, or help me get one and do this like NFT private banking services.
Yep.
And maybe one day when I decide I want to create my own marketplace, I'm going to opt to work with you guys. Is that the strategy?
There's a relationship building, no question. Everything is about relationships and business. And so, to be the person or to be a thought leader around how to think about how to get set up in the first place, you're going to remember that, obviously. And so I do get hit up all the time because these creators, they also then get hit up by other projects. Should I get involved in this? Should I think about this? And, the number one thing I tell them is you have to protect your brand. Your brand over the long term is super, super important. You have to be cautious of obviously what you get involved with. But I think it's important that they form an authentic relationship with the Web3 community. So that's why actually learning how to use this stuff is super important. And that's where I focus my time.
So you seem like a very chill dude. but you seem to be in all these circles, brushing up against, the glitterati of the Hollywood world.
I'm definitely a normal guy, just a normal, I focus on trying to build an incredible business. Like, for me, I'm so passionate about what we're doing and so excited about it. I've had the opportunity to meet really cool, interesting people. Back in the day in college, I used to pay my bills by DJing. And so I feel like I'm living vicariously through some of these DJs. Again, finally being able to experience, being able to be behind a stage and see thousands of people interact with music, I think is incredible. And that's kind of what I would say is very analogous to thinking about the creation of this new content. So there's just a lot of analogies if you think about what we're trying to accomplish as a business and the thought process that creators have as they start to think through Web3.
Do you like living this glamorous Hollywood life?
I don't think I really live a crazy, glamorous Hollywood life. I think from my side, I work crazy hours. I'm super focused on just building.
What's your sort of like key for success? Like, what do you think got you here? Is it that tenacity or?
I think the number one thing, it's really important, and it's something I tell the entire company, our first value is be humble, right? I think we always remember where you came from. I don't forget, when I started, I lived in a tatami mat in London. I was paying 300 pounds in rent to live out of a closet. I was, having to pay for half-price sushi at Itsu because I knew that's when the good deals were. We really started from nothing. And I'll never forget that, where we came from. I think that's super important to remember that. But, I think the most important thing for an entrepreneur to be successful, it's about grit, right? You have to believe in yourself and you got to keep trying. There are many years people thought I was crazy. My first business didn't work out the way that I wanted it to, but I just kept on it. And I think if you stay persistent and you put the right energy out around what you want to accomplish, eventually it can happen. You can manifest it.
So we're going back to the state of the market. It's
right.
A bit precarious. Is there any interest in going out and acquiring, or I don't know what the state of your Series B is or if that's on the table or not, but are we shelving things until we get through it, or do you have a plan right now?
So, yeah, obviously really sad to see some of the layoffs of some of the bigger companies, but I think that kind of distracts. It's not the entire story. What's happened to Coinbase is not the story with every other, company in crypto right now. Some are continue to expand. MoonPay is going to grow, but it's going to grow responsibly. I think we've always, when we built the business, it was bootstrapped. And so being profitable and making sure we were really thinking through that was important. And you always have to balance profitability and growth. But I think for us, it's really important to, we're in a place where we're going from, one product, which is the MoonPay checkout, to now two products with the MoonPay checkout and NFT checkout, to now we have Hypermint. So we're a multi-product business at this point. And so, yeah, we obviously want to make sure we build the right maturity, the right systems, the right operational processes, and the people around those different businesses. So I expect our headcount to roughly double from where we were by the end of last year. But again, we're probably looking at no more than 400 people at the end of this year. So we're going to still try to keep that lean mindset within the company. But again, it's a great time because we get to prove out our thesis, right, that we're taking, that we think the NFT category is going to explode when we start to bring in a lot of these native brands and help them navigate their journeys there and actually translate that into real business. And so those are the challenges we have. It's kind of exciting. It's like going right back into finding product market fit, which is the stuff that I really get excited about. And then, yeah, we just have our core business to look after. We want to internationalize the business. We want to make sure that no matter what country you're in, we can localize the experience, turn on those different local payment methods. Again, comes down to conversion. And so, it's just a big job. You have to think about every single country, different dynamics in those countries. So we definitely have our work in front of us over this year or two. So we're not going to stop building.
Do you think you'll go and raise fresh capital, or?
So we're in a really good position where we're profitable still. And so we're not in any position where we need to fundraise. I think we could look at it again within the next 12 months or so, but there's no pressure at the moment. I think we're just going to stay really internally focused and continue building.
You answered my profitability question. Whenever our CEO is asked that, he has this really funny line, which is, we're unprofitable by design. That's some mental gymnastics. If you ever,
well, there's different kinds of profitability. The other profitability I like is ramen profitability. That was my mindset in the very beginning. As long as I could pay for my ramen and my 300-pound tatami mat rent, it was okay.
Now you're, you can probably be up to your elbows in ramen.
I'll have to take you.
Your cuppeth truly poureth over. So one thing that I'm interested in is what the landscape looks like. Do you guys? Because I'm not an NFT payments provider expert,
Right.
Who are the competitors there, and how do you elbow them out?
Yeah, I mean, I think the space, it's still pretty nascent around payments infrastructure for NFTs. We were in just a really good position because we'd already been doing for crypto, and arguably that was a lot harder to do. One of the biggest challenges when you're buying cryptocurrency is the risk of fraud, which I mentioned earlier. The fact that you can have chargebacks, the fact that, once you make a payment, it's non-final if you're using your debit or credit card. Whereas when I deliver you crypto, there's no way for me to get that back. There's no way for me to claim that back. So I have to eat that potential chargeback risk. And so we had a lot of experience doing that, moving billions of dollars across all these different wallets and different platforms. And so we've gotten pretty good. Like, we've built our own neural network models around how we look at fraud. And so when it went into NFTs, where we need to think through the same thing, because I think there were some experiences out there where you could buy NFTs, but it was kind of like pseudo NFTs because you didn't have them in your non-custodial wallet. And that was really important to me, that we could actually deliver the NFT directly into your non-custodial wallet, which would introduce the same risks around fraud. And so I think that's what enabled us to really be a pioneer around the solution that we've launched with NFT Checkout. But we don't really focus too much on competition. For us, it's like we want to be proud of ourselves. Like, I want everyone on the team to say, I feel proud of the products that are being shipped here. I think that really plays a large part. If you have that culture internally where people are proud of the work that's being done, you don't really need to be looking out at what other competitors are doing.
Did Jimmy Fallon give you a heads up when he changed his Twitter PFP?
Yeah, well, he needed a lot of help just to get his wallet set up. I mean, it was quite a process. He's like, "What is this private key?
What's the deal with private keys?"
Yeah. So no, I mean, it's been interesting to see. Obviously, over the last year, just how much interest there's been across such a range of different folks from every walk of life getting excited about this movement.
Yeah,
Web3.
I mean, it definitely clicks. I was speaking with Paris's husband a few weeks ago.
Carter.
Yeah, really great guy, and he kind of described how she got it, and we were just sharing anecdotes and kind of sharing notes, and he came over and he had these really nice shoes, and he's like, "So explain this NFT thing to me." And he's like, "Well, you ran over here. You're obviously, I know who you are. I know you have money, but you decided to wear your nice shoes. Like, why didn't you just wear socks or come barefoot or wear $20 sneakers on Amazon? Because it's important to you to sort of express yourself in this way." And it's the same thing with an NFT.
100%.
With a PFP specifically, which I thought was kind of funny. I don't know why that doesn't resonate with people.
It takes a while for your mind to click on it. Even the best analogy I can use for NFTs is, the Mona Lisa, right? You've got the Mona Lisa. If I take a
people
picture,
are going to be really upset by that analogy.
Especially right now, right?
Yeah.
After what happened. But if I take a picture of the Mona Lisa, is that valuable? Probably not, right? But it goes back to what's important in Web3. It's about ownership. You own that Mona Lisa. So why would that same analogy not apply for digital, right? It's about owning that digital asset. It's not just about, if you take a screenshot, that's not valuable. But it takes a while for your head to kind of get around the idea that you can own things digitally.
So do you have any interesting anecdotes of trying to pitch that concept to some of these celebrities?
I think a lot of them, they kind of, it does click. It clicks pretty quickly once you start to go through a bunch of these examples. No, I haven't really had anyone really, really struggle, to be honest. I think people are just excited about, what they can do in the metaverse. I think that's the other really exciting thing. And I think, the other thing I think will be interesting
is... Or the Snoopverse.
Yeah, the Snoopverse. So we can talk about that. But I think the really cool thing is, a lot of the way that we experience the world is in 2 dimensions. And so I think the metaverse experience is going to be greatly enhanced by things like Oculus, these new things that we're going to be using where we can experiment with things in 3 dimensions. And that's one of the things that I'm really excited about. One of the things I've done is I've taken one of my squiggles, so Chromie Squiggles, one of the projects Artblocks created, and I've taken my squiggle, and there's actually projector technology where you can actually see it in 3 dimensions.
Wow.
Which is super cool. And that's a new expression of art, which is was not possible before. So it will redefine the way that we think through a lot of these different things.
That's incredible. Well, this was really fun. I think we covered a lot of ground. I'm just excited to be doing the show in person again because it really, and I hope the listeners can sense the difference in, well, obviously the audio quality thanks to some recent efforts, but also because of just the personability of being face-to-face. So where can our listeners learn more about what you guys are working on at MoonPay?
So you can check us out, moonpay.com. That's obviously a great place to start. We try to put out great content on our Twitter, a lot of education content. We try to focus on all the different projects that are happening, and we do trivia, so we try to make it fun. We're on TikTok, so we've got some funny videos on TikTok. We're also on Instagram, so all good places you can learn more about us.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to check out the TikTok.
There's no dancing by me, unfortunately. Not yet.
Not yet. We'll have to get you. Have you seen that?
We got to do the Harlem Shake again. I feel like we got to bring back the Harlem Shake. When was the last? I haven't seen one in a while.
No, or that my money don't jiggle, it folds. I'd like to see it.
That's a big one. Yeah, maybe
that's been really popular.
Maybe we'll do that at NFT NYC.
Definitely. All right, sir. Thanks for stopping by the show.
Awesome. Thank you.
We'll be back with you again on The Scoop with another great guest. Have an awesome day.